Hello, my name is Susan Smith and I'm the Library Manager at Cheshire Hospitals and Crewe. And this case study is a personal reflection on why I became involved in the Value and Impact Task and Finish group. It explains why impact has been so vital for both me personally and also for the service which I manage. To understand the story, you need to understand a little bit about the Jet Library. I manage a team of 5 people. Some of them are employed by the University of Chester, some are employed by Mid Cheshire, and we have a member of staff from East Cheshire NHS Trust. And when I first came to post, it was very much a University of Chester run service. They own half the book stock, they own the catalogue, and most of the rules and regulations of the library came from the university side. Like every good story, there's got to be an obstacle to overcome. And the one that hit us came straight out the blue. We thought we'd been doing a very good job developing services. We were beginning to build clients, we were beginning to get the literature searches in, the training numbers up, we were involved in induction, and 2 years down the line, disaster struck. Because we hadn't been very vocal within the organisation, we had our heads down and we were developing the services. We hadn't really got out there to market the impact that these services had actually created. And the result of it was most staff within the organisation didn't realise that they could use the library service. There wasn't really an organisational wide perspective of the service. And what that meant was, unbeknownst to me, the execs had gone on an away day and they were going to review all the finances at the time. And they didn't really know what the library service did. So a decision was taken to remove half my budget overnight. It was mid-year, I got no notification, no warning. It was just one day I came in and there was an email stating that my budget had gone. I'd actually spent it by that point, so there was a lot of work involved in backpedalling. So while I was beginning to work up all the costings around the service and work out what the implications were of losing half my budget with no notice, I was called to a meeting with the head of the library service at University of Chester. Said, I wanted to speak to you in person. We've been reviewing the sites and we don't think having multiple sites is sustainable. Therefore, we're planning on withdrawing the university from the hospital in 4 weeks' time. It was difficult not to panic at that point. Not only had I been stripped of my budget just shortly beforehand, but the university, not only did they own the systems, they owned the furniture, they owned half of my books. Was it going to be just 2 members of staff left with a large pile of books in an empty library? Oh, that was a challenge. Well, we thought, what are we going to do about this? Well, we've done some really good work recently. We've got a lot of people that have been using us. We need to call on them. So we went out for people that had started to use the NHS services, and they thought of us as their dirty secret. I don't have time to do this work. Therefore, the library is doing it and I'll take the credit for it at meetings. So they didn't want to admit that they were getting help from the library service. So I wasn't really getting any internal support from staff. So we thought, what else can we do? The Learning Development Agreement. Of course, we're based on tariff nowadays, and part of the tariff is you must have a library service within the hospital. We went out to all the partners, to the universities, to the deanery, and we asked for them to support the library service and stated that we were at risk at the time. And unfortunately, it backfired on us. What we discovered was the agreement doesn't hold water. It was considered a nice thing to have, and if funding is tight, well, clinical staff are more important than libraries, aren't they? And it also had the effect that a number of letters had been sent to the execs about the closure of library, but the voice and the tone wasn't quite right. It hadn't been supportive, it had been angry, and people had come at it with their own goals. And it meant that the library service was blacklisted as far as the board were concerned. You couldn't mention the library service in any meeting. So the prospects for us were quite bleak. And I remember going in after a meeting with my line manager. I was returning to the office, and I was just looking at everyone saying, I can only think of one thing to do. There's only one way that I can think of to turn this situation round. Right, team, we need to be awesome. We can't just sit here behind computers hoping that the problem will go away. It's not going to go away. We have got to let people know what we do in this organisation, what decisions we have supported. We started to collect impact stories and share them within our reports. We started to apply for awards, and we encouraged people to put us forward for Employee of the Month and for Team of the Month. We had to go out there and show that we were vital to business. So how did we do this? Well, the first step was we had to get known in the organisation. And to do that, we had to become visible. We went out and we started to join every group, every committee that we could get on. Sometimes it was trying to get an invite onto it, finding something that you thought you could support. Other times it was gate crashing different meetings and basically asking if you could shadow them and then see whether there was any role for us in the future. If there was an event on, sure enough, the library would have a stall at it. At that time, there was a number of people commented that no matter where they went in the organisation, the library was there. And that was important because by getting out and meeting staff, we could actually start to build better relationships with them. And behind every good impact case study is a personal relationship that a member of staff has with a member of library staff. When you get involved in informal conversation, you find out what people's interests are, you can understand what their actual needs are, and they're more likely to do you a favour and give you an impact quote or create a case study or champion you with other people. So it was really important to build these personal relationships with the customers that we were actually working with. And not only that, we had to get over this idea that the library was a secret weapon. It's not, it's a critical tool for all staff. So we had to try and encourage people to try and give us credit. And sometimes it involved going into meetings, reading the minutes beforehand and thinking, do you know what? I'm pretty sure the library did a literature search on that. And going to the person that was going to deliver the presentation or report and say, could you just mention that the library did this piece of work to support you? And people were very willing to do it. And quite often they went above and beyond in promoting not just the fact that we did the literature search, but also explaining what other services that they had actually used. If people were doing literature searches and there was a piece of work published, then why not credit the library staff in the publication? We needed to get that formal recognition at the boardroom, in the meetings, and in paper that the library was actually supporting. The other thing is, once we actually get these case studies, we had to share them about the organisation. We started doing regular quarterly reports. We've got them posters about. It's important that when you're actually speaking to people, why not share a little bit of the good news? When you go to a meeting and someone says, "Is there any other business?" why don't you say, "I just thought you might be interested to know. We recently did a literature search for this, and this is what has come out of it." People actually like hearing positive stuff. And that gives people ideas on what other services that you could do for them. But not only that, it's not just our library successes that we share. Impact case studies from other services are really important. It brought to light in the organisation how strong the library network is. The fact that we could be a source of ideas, of solutions, that we could tap into good practice. So if I can find something that is relative to one of the services within the organisation, often I'll drop them a little email and say, "Have you seen this case study? Is there anything of interest? Is there anything that we can do to support you in it?" That targeted approach really helps. Sometimes I do the generic ones, depending on the topic. But having that targeted approach, and again, this is all coming back to the need to develop those personal relationships. And the other side of it is, quite often, if you look at the impact cases, they're all focused around literature searching. That's not the only thing that librarians do. Quite often we take our own services for granted. What about actually providing space? At the moment, space is one of the top services we offer people. We offer it for people who are wanting to hot desk, who can actually just ask quick inquiry while they're here. We offer it for meetings. We offer it for training sessions. Actually having space away from the office to do work, away from the family to do research, is one of the top benefits of our service. And it helps us protect the library service and the area that we are in by promoting this. Think about all the services that you deliver and some of the ones that you take for granted. So was all this additional work around impact worth it? I'm still here 6 years down the line. If I go to meetings and people start to challenge the library service and usually ask the "so what" question, I now have stories that I can tell that directly relate library services to frontline patient care, to patient safety, to critical business decisions and additional projects that go on in the trust. And by sharing stories and creating that culture of storytelling, it means other people will now advocate us and share these stories on our behalf. It's not just up to the library to do it, but other people share the stories, and we get approached by people we've never met before, we've never worked with, just to test ideas or to do some work. What is also good is it's actually changed the dialogue that's happening around the library service. We used to be told what to do by consultants. We used to be told what to do by managers. We used to be told what to do by the board, by the University of Cheshire. And now we're consulted. And that means that we have control of the direction and the future strategy of the library. When I first started, that just wasn't possible. But now there's that build-up of trust. There is more credibility of library service and of library staff at higher level, and more visibility. It used to be that we mainly served students or even doctors in training, and now most of the inquiries we get are actually from senior managers within the organisation. So it means we're much more embedded. People think of us right at the start of projects nowadays. And this means they come to us not just for best practice for evidence searching, but also to test ideas and sometimes to invite us on board. So I don't need to wiggle my way or gate crash different meetings. I'm invited right at the start of them. And this makes the job much more interesting. A lot of the work I've been doing this year has been in relation to IT projects. Some of it is really cutting edge stuff. That would not be possible without slow build-up of impact case studies, shared from other library services, from internal ones collected here, and challenging people's perspectives. Remember at the start of the presentation I said that the execs had blacklisted us? Well, impact helped us turn that around. Tracy Bullock, our then CEO, was one of the first people to give a quote for the Million Decisions campaign. She volunteered to come out and speak to librarians in the Northwest and answer questions about the formations of the STPs and how libraries can support transformation within their areas. What was actually interesting about that for me was something else that had changed. We had done a piece of work around pressure ulcers for someone within the organisation. Unbeknownst to us, the Jet Library name was associated with that piece of work, and as it meandered its way through different committees, it fell on the desk of the Director of Nursing. So when Tracy was looking at what quote should she give for Million Decisions, part of the discussion around it came from word of mouth from the Director of Nursing, someone who we had previously never dealt with. So sometimes your champions can come from hidden, unknown places. Our impact journey is still not over. Tracy left us early in the year and James Sumner has taken up post as the new CEO. And this means I'm back at square one with a new chief exec. I need to teach how awesome the library service is. But for me, it's actually quite good timing. The introduction of the Quality Improvement Outcome Framework is going to challenge my practices around value and impact. There's more I need to be looking at, and this is a time with the rise of quality improvement academies and the transformation across the health system that we need to be looking at our methodologies. We need to improve our reporting techniques to be able to communicate in a strategic way. But not only making the library case, other departments around us are in similar positions where they need to justify their existence. A lot of the learning that I've got from working on the Value and Impact Toolkit, I've actually shared with teams like the education team, with the finance team, with the HR team, and they're looking at using some of these techniques and methodologies within their own departments. So I think it's important, again, to build these relationships, to share the learning that we've developed within the sector, but also across different sectors as well. If we want to keep our ideas fresh, if we want to keep aligned with the organisation, then we need these relationships, and we need to continue to look at how we develop our value and impact arguments.